While most toddlers struggle to open a juice box, Anais cuts entire vehicles in half, merges with other human beings, lifts people 10 times her size, and so much more. So yeah, she's pretty strong, which is why today we're going to go over her 7 different levels of strength to find out how strong she really is, starting with her normal state. In this state, her strength is anything but normal because at just 1% power, she can lift people 10 times her size. We see this in the episode The Castle, where she does this in the middle of a disaster where Richard accidentally let the whole neighborhood party in his house. But throughout the chaos, they make the mistake of letting Harold into the party, who seems to have a weird obsession with poking people, which Anais gets fed up with pretty quickly. We learned a lesson today. Freedom is a beautiful thing, but too much of it is ... Hold on a second and stop poking people. But this is only the beginning of Anais' strength because we're only at 1% power. Later in this video, we're going to look at what Anais is like at 25% power, 69% power, and even 100% power. But things are already ramping up at just 5% power, at which point she unlocks multiple new abilities. She uses that big brain of hers to do some absolutely insane things, one of which being in the episode The Safety, where Anais does some extremely complicated hacking, which is super impressive for a 4-year-old. Hack, press enter. Really hack, just kidding, actually, I bypassed the storage controller, tapped directly into the V and X array head, decrypted the anonymized SAS disk, injected the flash drivers into the network's memory path before disabling the IDs, routed incoming, trafficked through a bunch of offshore proxies, accessed the ESXi server cluster in the primary data center, and disabled the intervs and routing on the ... Yeah, that was crazy. And what's even more crazy is the fact that you're not subscribed. Yeah, you're not slick, but if you thought hacking a computer was impressive, you clearly haven't seen the episode The Password. In this episode, Anais changes the password on the computer that she can have it all to herself. And when Gumball and Darwin find this out, they literally explode from anger. Good luck logging in. I changed the password. We're only at 5% power, and Anais has already lifted a man 10 times her size, did super complicated hacking on a computer, and made Gumball and Darwin explode from anger. But we haven't even scratched the surface of her true strength yet, so now let's bump it up a notch to 10% power. Here, she unlocks a bunch of more unique powers, starting with when we see her insane fighting skills in the episode The Pass, when Gumball and Darwin accidentally walk in on her training. Well, you could argue that anyone could have karate skills like this with enough practice, but what I really think is insane is the weird thing that she ends up doing to Gumball's face. Anais' pure aura is enough to make her enemies literally quiver in fear. You do not want to mess with my girl Anais, but let's take a step back from her pure strength in terms of fighting and look at a moment that shows how smart and analytical she really is. We see this in the episode The Parking. In this episode, the Wattersons cannot find a parking spot. So after following old ladies, Anais decides they need a more analytical approach. Now take guy number 2. Notice he doesn't have a wedding ring. He's on his own. He doesn't have to wait for anyone. He'll get out of here quickly, but observe the tan mark on his wrist where his watch would be. This means he's sloppy, inattentive, forgetful. Okay, what's your point? He can't remember where he parked, and while this might just seem like the case of Anais being smart, if she can actually identify things like melatonin level on people's skin, imagine what else she could do. But we're about to find this out, as now we're moving on to see what she's like at 25% power. This is where we start getting more of a glimpse into how powerful she really can be. Like in the episode The Puppy, where the Wattersons are tasked to take care of a turtle. But if it wasn't obvious already, this is the farthest thing from your normal turtle. As it goes around throughout the episode literally trying to kill the Wattersons, but just as Darwin blows it up in a van, and they think that the turtle's dead, something completely unexpected happens. No, this can't be possible. No, well, I guess there's no getting rid of it. We'll have to keep it for as long as it lives. How long do they live? 130 years. This means that Anais is the only one with enough balls in the Watterson family to actually capture this demented creature, and as we see throughout later episodes in the show, they actually keep it in a glass jar. And I would assume Anais would have to be feeding it, because you would assume this thing would die without food. But at the same time, maybe they wouldn't want to feed it so it dies faster. And it can actually just survive without food, but either way, Anais is taking care of the most deadly pet in Elmore. And that's a fact, but we see even more of how deadly Anais can be in the episode The Fridge. All we need is a little time to come up with a pit bomb. Darwin, I don't know about you guys, but something about seeing Anais as a psychopath killer bunny is absolutely terrifying. And I would not want to run into her if I was playing paintball in the woods. But now, let's take a look at what Anais would be like at 50% power, and this is where things really start ramping up. Because at 50% power, she unlocks the ability to drive an invisible car. No, I'm not even joking, and we see this in the episode The Chat, where Louis gives the kids a check for being their favorite grandchildren. But what they initially thought would be a really lame low amount of money actually just turns out to be $5,000. But because they're the Wattersons and they can't decide how to split the money, Nicole ends up stealing it and driving away in her invisible car, which ends up in an invisible car chase with the entire Watterson family. But Anais specifically during this invisible car chase is shown to have some really impressive invisible driving skills. And if her stealing a check in slow motion from Richard in his invisible truck wasn't impressive enough, throughout this chase, she manages to stay ahead, outmaneuvering all of them until they end up back at the bank to check it, where they all end up crashing, just to have Louis come back and reveal that the check was actually only worth $50. But not even this can compare to Anais cutting an entire bus in half. And we see this in the episode The Worst, where at the beginning of the episode she walks through multiple people and just overall causes chaos throughout the entirety of Elmore. Just purely because she's in a bad mood that day, but whatever. You do when Anais is in one of these moods. Do not let her near a school bus. Welp, I warned you, but now it's time to move on to 69% power. Nice. And here we start seeing some of her weirdest powers, one of which including merging with another human being. And we see this in the episode The Parasite. And oh man, this has to be one of the most impressive things Anais has ever done. The episode starts with Anais being absolutely obsessive and trying to be friends with a girl named Jody, even though she clearly wants nothing to do with her. And let's just say Anais is doing way too much. From buying her an entire vending machine of snacks to saving her from dodgeballs and paying for her lunch. But eventually it goes too far when Gumball and Darwin find out that they merged together and became one. Jody, do you need a tissue? Or a bucket? Hey, get off my sisters. Everything, leave us alone. You're getting away, kinda. Gumball and Darwin immediately assume that Jody is the problem. So they track them down and set up an elaborate trap to catch them. And when they end up in the nurse's office, this is where it gets revealed that Anais is actually the social parasite. And this is just really creepy. All I wanted was to borrow a pen. Free. I can't accept this. Okay, yeah. I would hate to be friends with Anais. Imagine being sucked into becoming friends with someone at your school that you already don't like. And then take it a step further by literally merging with you without your consent. Now, we've already seen some absolutely crazy stuff in this video. And I bet a lot of you are already shocked at how strong Anais really is. But now, let's look at an episode of the show where I think Anais finally uses 100% of her true power. And this is in none other than the episode The Rival. And in this episode, it takes place for years ago when Anais was just born. And somehow, this is when it takes place for years ago when Anais was just born. And somehow, this is when she's the most powerful. The episode starts with the Wattersons going through the hospital drive-thru because apparently that's a thing, and after she's born, she immediately gets to business. This literally leaves Gumball and Darwin coated in cement, but this isn't. Even the end of it. And Mr. Daddy, and where are we? Oh, we're the flowers. Oh, right? And she does so many more straight up just evil things, from putting Gumball and Darwin in front of a moving truck, to getting them in trouble with their parents. She acts like a straight up psychopath as a baby, and that's not even the end of it. She explodes them with a bomb, tried to drown Darwin, makes Gumball take a bath in boiling water, puts a bomb in Darwin's toy, clogs their arteries with sugar from cereal, gives them a bag with hundreds of live bees, and tries to push them into lava. And at the end of the episode, she says her first words, which is literally just blaming Gumball for getting them into that situation. Gum. Yes, Gumball did it. She has to be one of the smartest, most evil newborns on the planet, and that's what makes her so terrifying. But that's all I got. If you made it all the way to the end, you better hit that subscribe button or I'll let baby Anais into your house.